Welcome back to Melanin Minds, empowering Black women creators, where we are focusing on Black women in the comics and manga space. I'm your host, Toshi J. This is episode 3, and we have another really great guest who I absolutely adore. Okay, she's an awesome book. This is also who I was talking about the other day when I was talking about that one thing we were talking about. I can't wait to get to that part. But, of course, if you haven't read Luna, the Queen of Mahru, you should definitely be checking it out. Today we have the awesome author of Luna, Karla, on with us. And here she is.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I'm always happy to have a conversation with you.
It's
always fun.
Yeah, I love chatting with y'all.
But of course, the topic for this month is activism in art / comics. And I think for you, this is a story I pretty much know, but we are going to get into the first thing for the questions of tonight. And that is for you to tell us about your journey as a Black woman in this space.
Okay, yeah. So First, just to go back, I'm very new to the indie space. And when I say new, I mean like 5 years compared to people who've been reading comics since they were, babies, children. I'm new to this space. And when I kind of dived into this world, specifically this indie blurred space, I didn't realize how many of us were writing comic books. And there are a lot of male writers, male comic book writers, but there are far fewer women who write comics. And I pulled like a statistic, I believe it was from 2020. I think it was from Zippia. And it said that like only 30% of comic book writers are women. And then when you look at it, by demographics, it's even the percentage is even less when it comes to Black women. Like, I don't even think we even charted. It was really interesting. Right. And that will kind of play into what, okay, so this is the statistic. The most common ethnicity among comic book writers is white, obviously, which makes up about 76%. Comparatively, there's 7.6% of comic book writers are Hispanic or Latino, and 5.9% of comic book writers are Black or African American. So we only hold a 6% kind of share in this comic book writing genre. And so there's even less Black women. I'm pretty sure it's only 1%. So.
And that's not getting into how many of us are actually known.
Right. Because there are a lot of Black women that are writing comics. I would say easily 100, 200 that are writing comics across, but maybe even more than that. But I feel like a handful. So when I kind of started understanding kind of the odds that are against me when it comes to telling my story, it made me appreciate Luna, which is my comic book, even more. Because if Luna is getting the recognition that she's getting, that means number one, it's a good story. But number two, the message that I'm trying to that is starting to come to the forefront is starting to it resonates with people. And so, as a Black woman, it's very important that I get Luna's story told, because there's so many things that I want to share through her story that I feel like really complements this discussion tonight. And I have to sometimes, though, I talked about this earlier. I do have to sometimes fight with my own people to share Luna's story, because they don't understand it, because we've been so conditioned to portray women in a certain way. So when they see Luna, they're like, wait a minute, this is not what I'm used to. She has blonde hair. She doesn't have blonde She has blonde hair. She's a queen. She's not fighting. What's going on? So it's sometimes those moments can be a little bit frustrating, but for the most part, it has been a positive one. But two, that kind of, because of the odds are stacked against us, it makes us even more like, okay, we gotta make sure this succeeds. We have to make sure this succeeds.
Yeah. And I thank you for bringing out the statistics, because it's something I actually meant to do in the first episode and I did not do it, is bring up the statistics as a point of why this podcast even exists in the first place. Because it is right. Like, Black people in general in the comic space is already such a small number. And then Black women is even smaller. And out of the many Black women who are writing comic books, even fewer of us are even known about. And there's so many Black women out there writing stories, and I wish I knew so many more. And I know some who I know nobody even knows about and don't get the recognition that they deserve, who have such good stories. And there's so many other things that are just keeping those stories from really getting out there the way they should. And so I felt that statistic is so important. And that was my bad on not sharing that in that first episode. And I really meant to make sure I had that on me. And also the other part you were talking about with fighting about Luna, I feel like that's a great segue into the next question, because of course I was there while you were on the panel for Virtuous Con, and I heard you talk about that, and I've seen you have those discussions / fights with people about Luna. Yes, Luna is a Black woman, despite her blonde hair or her looser curls. She is a Black woman. And so I've seen that, and I heard you talking about it earlier, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's perfect for us to talk about later, especially as we get into the next question of how has your identity and experience as a Black woman influenced your work?
And this goes back to the discussion we had last summer about our hair, right? My hair is a different texture than most of my family's. So I grew up, I didn't have to press my hair. Like, my hair was just naturally, fine and easy to manage and things like that. So I got a lot of comments like, oh, you have white in your family, or you're trying to be white, or this and that. And I did struggle with my identity, right? But now as I'm older and I'm grown, and I don't have that identity crisis anymore. But when I was creating Luna, I wanted to show, first I wanted Luna to be different. I didn't want Luna to have the typical Black hair that we normally have. I wanted her to look different. So I was like, well, what better way? And Mary J. Blige, a lot of people think Beyonce was my inspiration, but it was actually Mary J. Blige was actually my inspiration for Luna. And I don't think
I've never heard you say that. No.
Yeah, I don't think
And I love Mary J. Blige.
So, and it was years ago that, and I still have this picture to this day where Mary it has her blonde hair, and she has this makeup on that's like shimmery, like it was so beautiful. I was like, wow, she looks like a superhero. I don't think I saved that picture, but I remember that picture. So when I was, trying to figure out how Luna was going to look, I was like, I'm just going to give her blonde hair. I'm not really thinking about, okay, I'm gonna make sure they I'm gonna make sure that people know Black women can be different, and I just like, I'm gonna give her blonde hair. And then when it came to developing the comic book, I was like, okay, should I change her hair to brown, or should I keep it blonde? And then I remembered, okay, there's actually a culture of people that are Black that have blonde hair. And so I was like, let me look to see who they are. And it was, it's the people of the Solomon Islands. And so I was like, okay, I'm keeping this. Like, what started as just, a kind of an ode to Mary turned into be, for me, a very significant intentional choice, because I want people to understand that you cannot box a Black woman in. We are different phenotypes, but you're not going to come at us and say, you're not Black because you don't talk a certain way, you don't look a certain way, you don't act a certain way. You don't get to say that. We will define who we are. We will define whether we, identify as Black or not. No one else can do that. So,
Right.
so that was how my experiences influenced, Luna.
Right. And it is a constant struggle with Black women's hair, whether they wear their natural hair, whether their hair is thick, whether their hair is looser, whether whatever color the hair, whether they wear a wig, either you
Right.
hate yourself, you're sloppy, you need to comb your hair. Like it's always something. Like we're not the blueprint. Like
Right.
Black women's hair can grow out of their head. It can be blonde. It can be straight. We literally have the ability to be like a chameleon. And so it's always crazy that if we're anything other than nappy headed in their words or something like that, then we must be trying to be like white women.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but Black women just we have it all types of different textures, lengths, all of that. But as soon as they don't see what is more typical for them to see, it's the call out of you must be trying to be white or you can't be Black or you must be mixed or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. And it's always very frustrating to hear.
And I don't
And
know why. I don't know why that is. I mean, they give Beyonce a really hard time about that. But
mhm,
Rihanna is the same. Like Rihanna's the same tone. She's the
mhm.
same thing, and they don't never give Rihanna a hard time. So it's just odd. Sometimes people pick and choose what they want to have
They
problems.
do.
You know.
I feel like it's a mixture of their status, their background slash culture, and then like the hair. Like Beyonce wears hers long and blonde a lot more often, whereas sometimes we see Riri as well. She wears her natural hair, and I'm like, not always. I love Riri, but you know,
Yeah.
not always.
Mm-hmm.
But and you make great segues all the time, but because it's like we're talking about Black women hair and how we don't all look the same. And so that leads right into how you see your art, which for you is your story, your comic, as a tool for activism and social change.
Mm-hmm. So, I always, whenever I'm asked something like this question or something similar, I always think of, and I always like to use Beyonce as
Mm-hmm.
an example because Beyonce, like her or not, she creates conversations. So
Mm-hmm.
she did Lemonade and she did her visual album. She touched on topics that are really, really difficult for even the Black community to discuss. One of those being police brutality,
Mm-hmm.
um, domestic issues, things between a husband and a wife. And there's other things that she touched on. But it created a conversation so much so that there were people boycotting her. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then there was some people who was like, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so tying that back to Luna isn't necessarily a comic book that is like speaks on social or political issues. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I'm going to create this book because I want to address police brutality. I want to, create this book because I want to address domestic abuse. That's not um,
Right.
the point of Luna.
And that's
However,
why I was so excited to be able to ask you this question so people could see it through a different lens.
mhm, yes. However, when readers see Luna, I want people to understand that Black women, just like every other woman in our culture and every other culture, Latino, white, Asian, they can love, they deserve to be loved, and they deserve to be respected.
Mm-hmm.
And Luna, and so that's not, necessarily something that people go out on the streets and protest, right? But
Right.
it is a very controversial thought that Black women, we can love you, we can love, we can give love, but we also deserve love, and we deserve to be cherished, and we deserve to be respected. So that's one of the biggest themes in Luna is helping people, even our Black men, and now my man is not Black, he's Mexican, but he's of color.
Mm-hmm.
Helping our men see that we are queens, we deserve to be treated a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And for Black women, to see that. Like
Right.
that you are a queen and you deserve this. You deserve that. You know, you don't have to believe this narrative that you have to be Miss Independent, fighting every 2 seconds and for what's yours. You don't have to be that. You
Mm-hmm.
can find somebody that's willing to give you the love and the respect and treat you like the queen that you are. You know, yes, you need to stand on business when needed, but you also deserve that. You know, you also deserve that peace. You also deserve that love. So that
Mm-hmm.
is really one of the main themes throughout Luna. So that is what I want to use Luna to convey. You know, this idea, this controversial thought that Black women, we should be cherished and we should be respected. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
And in case anyone has a problem with it, since her man's not Black, because you know there's always going to be that one. My man is Black, and I co-sign this message. Okay, okay, thank you. But also, if you haven't checked out Luna, yeah, Luna is powerful. But Luna, the story is a love story. It's a beautiful story. It's a beautifully written story. And again, like I said, that's why I was really excited for your episode for that question, because I wanted people to see how you can write a book about social change that's for social change and that's still a part of activism, and it doesn't have to be about activism or social change or the struggle or anything like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
Luna works amazingly for social change because it just shows a beautiful Black woman being a queen and getting the love she deserves in the far, far future off of Earth, where she doesn't have to worry about the crap that we're dealing with here. And just, I love it so much.
Right.
I don't know. I'm sorry, Odina. Luna is really, really like creeping up to be my favorite female character in the Concrete Comics universe.
Thank you. Thank you.
And with that being said, too, of course, the next question segues. I love you. Um, why is that representation important for in the arts and comic space, particularly for Black women? And I think you kind of did like touch on that in the last one, but
So again, again, the women, we as Black women, all women, but it's specifically Black women, we are tasked with the impossible sometimes.
mm-hmm,
The odds are stacked against us intentionally. Um, and sometimes we feel defeated, sometimes we feel discouraged, and we don't see a way out. And that in turn might manifest itself in different ways, such as anger, depression, desperation, what have you.
all of the above.
So yeah, yeah. So when we see in fantasy and fiction, those are our escapes, right? Everybody turns on their favorite channel, their TV show to escape with their reality.
Mm-hmm,
So when you escape into a world where you see women or men like you that look like you and that are dealing with similar issues, and you see the way that they are responding to it, and yes, they have superpowers, yes, they have this, but just there are shows that are not super powered. They're not,
right.
there shows without those powers. When you see someone in this world that you've escaped to look like you, it resonates more with you. It does. Just like
Mm-hmm,
when you were a child, you wanted to see, you remember, I remember a handful of characters who were Black that I resonated with. And that's a shame
mm-hmm,
because I
yeah,
grew up in the 80s, and there was a lot on TV, but I only remember like 5 people that I
mm-hmm,
truly resonated with. So when you escape to this world and you see people like you resonate more, and you might even be more inspired and motivated to change, or motivated to, tackle that issue that you still have to yet to tackle. Um, so yeah, I think that's why it's important for um, Black women to be represented, and not just a one-dimensional Black woman.
mm-hmm,
Black woman that's layered, like we are in real life, not just someone who constantly wants to fight, not someone who constantly wants to sleep around, a woman with layers, a woman, a multi-dimensional character. That's what we want to see. And so, and you can tell, when a woman writes a Black female character, and you can tell when a man writes a Black female character.
Mm-hmm.
Not to take away from the male characters, but when a woman writes a woman's character, it's a lot. You can tell. It's a lot more depth to that character. And so, that's why I always try. I always want, male writers to always have like a female looking over their stuff, because it's like you gotta. It would just be more authentic if you had a female writing a female. But if that's not the case, at least having a female give you insight into
Right.
various experiences that your character goes through. So
of course, this the third episode we're recording. It's only the second interview, and you and Kira on point, because like you both have said things that I literally said as to why I believe that this is an important topic, even in the comic space. Because I was like, I know it might probably seems strange for us to talk about activism in the comic book and manga space. That probably seems strange to some people. And I like how you and Kira both really hit the nail on the head of why I thought it was an important topic. And so I just love that.
yeah.
Like that we're all on the same page. It's always funny how most of the people who say that representation is not important to them usually have never had to want to see themselves most, because there's always those few brown people or Black people that's just like, well, I don't need representation. But I feel like you say that because it sounds good in the moment, or because it makes you sound big and bad, or it makes you feel some type of way like, yeah, I don't need this to feel good about myself. But when you see, and that's why they get so emotional or almost possessive of the characters that do look like them, when you see that, your heart skips a beat. You look and you're like, that is representation of what I feel like I'm just going to use Black men because we're Black. And so if a Black man comes to me and says, I don't really care about representation, it's not important to me, but then the same Black man is most likely going to cling to Black Panther and say, that's a Black man, that's a king. And they'll get really possessive. And then you have the stuff like getting really, really angry about Black Panther either being written different or having a different storyline, or like in the MCU where it's like, he's gone now, they'll kill him off,
right,
and make him recast right now.
They wanted him to be recast because they didn't want him. They didn't want him to die.
Right. They didn't want their Black king to be replaced. Unfortunately, for a lot of them, they didn't want their Black king to be replaced with Black women.
Yeah.
They felt like we were taking over and putting them beneath us. And that is definitely not the case. Because I love Wakanda Forever. Like,
Wakanda Forever had a purpose, and that was to help us grieve. That was the purpose of Wakanda Forever.
And that was literally the point I tried to make. Speaking not just as someone who was also grieving, but as a fellow actor, for thinking from the perspective of the actors in the movie who worked really closely with Chadwick Boseman. Because it was like a beautiful artistic tribute to his time with them.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were so busy seeing red that they missed that.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly believe he will be recast when the time is right.
When the time is right. I think so too. I don't think Ryan will do it. I think once Ryan kind of passes the torch, to another showrunner and the script, producer, I think that Black Panther will be recast. I mean, they have the Black Panther now, which is the son, Um,
Right.
I don't know, the timeline, all that stuff. But when they reboot everything again, which they
That.
will,
That.
he will be recast just like everybody else will be
Mm-hmm.
recast.
I
So
say that's my only thing is the movie was beautiful. I have no idea what they're trying to do with the universe anymore. I just take each
well,
movie
Kong
as
is
it is.
I'm looking. I hope that they develop the characters in the way that the comic books, if they truly give Doctor Doom his power set, then
Oh my
he
god.
is even greater than Thanos. You know what I mean? And
Oh my god.
the other, I think that's and they're also like thinking about the Beyonder. So
They mentioned that.
you
I got
know,
chills on the Doom part because I love some Doctor Doom. Like,
yeah, and I actually have in some of the what was the what's the run where they are in the after the I forget the run, but it's when the She-Hulk
ah,
well, She-Hulk is in charge of all of them. Oh,
mm-hmm.
I can't. I don't even know the name of it. I forgot the run, but
I don't recall
um,
the exact name of it, but I know what you're talking
the
about.
She-Hulk. Yeah, she's kind of in charge of the Earth now, and like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I feel like they messed up over the past 3 years. They should not have written some of the stories that they have written because now you cannot do that. You can't do what you really want to do with these new set of movies.
Right, and
She
then
Hulk
I
was
feel like
supposed to be. I enjoy it. Like I thought She
I
Hulk was
enjoyed.
entertaining, but I wish
Mm,
they would have waited. I wish they would have waited for her debut because I don't think they did her very well.
I've just been trying, like I said, I've been taking it a show or a movie or whatever at a time just to see where it goes. And then I feel like they had a slight plan in place, and unfortunately, a certain someone kind of threw a wrench in that. So
Yeah,
we're not gonna talk about that. Uh, but the next question, I feel like you kind of at least answered the first part. And honestly, I feel like you answered the whole thing kind of a little bit, but we can get like more into it, I guess. And that's how do you approach representation and what is the impact you hope it has on your audience?
So Luna has a very diverse, you know, cast of characters. Luna is black. Abek is I purposely do not specify his ancestry.
Hmm.
That he's indigenous. Like his ancestry is obviously what we would consider indigenous to the Americas.
Oh,
Just from and as the story goes on, that will be more and more apparent. And then you have
oh.
Kira and Zoe, they're black, so there's like Luna. But then you're gonna have Samira, who is going to be more of a kind of a Middle Eastern, like, but a fairer skinned Middle Eastern character. Then you
Mm.
have Dr. Raju and Coda, who are also of Asian descent. So there's a very diverse cast here, and I purposely wanted to. That was very intentional because I wanted
Mhm.
people to understand what the world will look like if we allowed racism to die. What humanity should look like. Um, Working together. It doesn't matter what race and culture, what race and ethnicity you are. We're all working together for the greater good and to defeat this threat that's coming. Um, so that I was very intentional with that, and I see a lot of comic book creators now, not now, but they have a diverse cast, and I like seeing stuff like that. I like seeing different types of characters of different ethnicities in the stories because I think it's more realistic that way.
I agree.
But I do understand when comic book creators only have all black characters. I do understand that as well.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree. I like even if like I know us for instance, like the main characters are usually black. They're usually because of their environment or their family is who they're surrounded with. The people in their like vicinity specifically will be black. But then like once you travel outside of their circle, there's the world, and the world is diverse. Even if sometimes other types of creators can't see that fact, but
Mm. Yeah, y'all
once
did
you
that very well in the midnight. What's the anthology you
The
did?
Tales from Midnight.
Tales from Midnight. Yeah, I think that
Thank
you
you.
all did a good job there. There was one story in particular, the serial killer. And I was like, wow, they decided to make him white. And I realized as well, historically
Hey,
that
that just happened to be what he was. There were other people in the store that were as well.
So, but I do like you all's approach to storytelling and stuff.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Oh no, he's gonna that story in particular is actually really going to expand into there are other characters in it that are going to be very prominent, and they all have different backgrounds.
Mm,
That's the way to say that. There we go.
wow, that's gonna be a story. That's gonna be a story. Y'all storytelling is immaculate.
Thank you. I always appreciate that from you. I really
No,
do.
thank you, thank you.
So I don't remember. Anyway. So to the next question, and I like asking this question. I know for like most of y'all that I'm having on, I kind of know the answer to this question still, but what are, and I think, we'll just skip the question. Thank you. How do you use your platform to amplify the voices of other marginalized or underrepresented creators?
Leaders. Well, something that I try to do is, when people send me stories or tag me in their stories, I try to share it to my social media pages.
Mm-hmm.
If there's like a particular video that a creator has done, I try to download it and share it on my other social media pages. So that's like the simple way. And then, once my Kickstarter is over, I'll kind of I'm going to take a break for a week off social media and just like reboot, right. Just get my
Yes,
mind right.
yes,
But I
please,
actually
please.
plan on creating a series. Like, what am I reading this week? And I'm going to be highlighting, like, I have a stack of comic books that I have not read yet from all the Kickstarters that I supported in 2020.
Yep.
So I plan on sharing though every single one on that segment. I haven't decided if I'm going to do a monthly one or maybe just like a weekly one. I'm not sure, but that's a way to get everyone's kind of
Stuff
introduce
out there.
a new audience to that creator. So
Right.
for that creator, y'all do that now with the indie characters. Y'all doing the indie verses is a way you're doing it too.
Now you can do the next question if you'd like, which is you,
I have
so
your
you put that up the first time, it threw me off. So,
I know, and I'm trying to like read it before, like, what are some challenges that I faced as
yeah.
a creative?
And I think this goes kind of back to what we talked about earlier as well. But if there are any others as on top of that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, for the most part, my experience has been very positive so far. I feel like, I don't know if it's because I'm older and I've learned to kind of tune things out or not go. I don't go there. I stay in my lane. And I'm really quick to block anyone who I feel would be like negative energy. Being a part of Concrete Comics, Lonzo has kind of helped me a lot along the way. So he's helps me, kind of learn how to observe people and not get involved with things or people or situations that might cause me pain down the line. But I guess the challenges have come, obviously, time and money, funding, getting, I'm investing, I'm trying to invest time into try to apply for grants every month now, because I wasn't doing that before. But I think the biggest challenge is just staying true to myself, staying true to my experiences. My experiences are unique and not like anyone else's. and not succumbing to, like initially the pressure was, why is Luna's hair blonde?
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? Now
Yes.
her hair is going to be ultra blonde because you said that,
Get
Um,
them highlights, girl. Go out.
yeah. So I think just staying true to what I've envisioned Luna to be. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure those are not the only conversations I'll have on that. I'm pretty sure there's more to
Mm-hmm.
come, especially if Luna is ever given an opportunity to go into a development deal or, on the big screen or what have you. I'm sure there will be attempts to change certain aspects of her and maybe of other characters, but then that's not the deal for me,
No.
So yeah, that's not the deal for me.
I agree. Yeah, and just yeah. I need her to get them platinum bleach blonde Beyonce highlights, and I just need her to just show out. 'Cause her hair could go anime yellow for all I care. I'm with it. I
Yeah.
am with it.
Hmm.
Y'all know those slight orange undertones she has in her head? Say goodbye. They're gone now. That's what y'all get. Okay.
Blonde, blonde,
But,
blonde. Yep.
mhm. And I think you said something that you said earlier on the panel too about just staying staying true to you and your story.
Hmm.
And that's so true, especially as Black women, because people will try to censor us, people will try to turn things around and make it look like we're crazy and all those kinds of things. They'll say things and it's just like, well, I you made Luna. It's like I made Luna to show that Black women deserve love, are queens, this and that, and then you have somebody come up there and be like, well, Black women, they just be acting crazy anyway. They don't deserve anything because all they do is nag and this and that, and it's just like I am truly sorry that you've had such a bad experience, but I really need you to go to therapy.
Exactly. And I haven't had that in my comments yet, but I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming. Um, I've heard Lonzo has had those comments said to him,
Mm,
about the other character, not just my Luna, but other characters in the Concrete universe.
mm-hmm.
I have not had that on my page yet, but I'm
Yeah.
sure it's coming. And I think I've limited my comments where you have to be a follower, I think, to comment. So maybe that's why. I'm not sure, but I'm sure it's coming.
Mm. I see people
But
do
I'm gonna
that.
use that. I'm gonna use that. Yeah, but I really need you to go to therapy.
Look, that's my go-to whenever anybody's doing the most on either side of the fence. Honestly, I'm just like I feel like therapy. We
Hmm.
all need it, and I
Hmm.
need you to start looking into it.
Hmm. Y'all had a comment. Somebody had a funny comment on one of y'all pages, and y'all was just like, it's not that serious.
Oh yeah, the YouTube comment that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, it's not that serious.
It wasn't that serious. It was so off topic. All we said, and I went back and rewatched the video because somebody wanted us to tag them in the YouTube video, and so I was like, well, let me go find this video real quick. Is this comment even still up? It is. First off, the comment is still there. But the video was literally a short, and I believe it was an Instagram reel first, and we put it on YouTube, and that's always where they come out of hiding. Was on YouTube, and it just said it was just like the words were just like, "There's no Black creators making Black characters," and then it was something like, "I'm going to need you to never say that again because we do." Like, and then he just went off. And just like, but why are you upset though? And even on that Instagram post about that comment, someone else came was
Yeah,
the usual. If you need to see something, or if you want to see your people in stuff, then I'm gonna need y'all to make your own stuff and leave the MCU alone and this and that. And it's just like, but why are y'all so offended by our very presence? And
mm-hmm.
also, we're a
Why,
comic creator,
why are you on the page? Get off the page.
right?
You don't have to see it. You don't have to see none of the stuff.
Right. Like you don't have to see us. If you're mad at the MCU, you don't have to support it. But just why? And we know why. But why does our presence in the world, in your escape from reality, offend you?
Because they don't want to see, racists don't want to see Black people in their fantasies.
Right. Because in their fantasies, we're either slaves or we're not there, and it's
Yeah,
crazy.
dead or something. We can talk about this Avatar movie. Not last,
Haven't watched it yet.
but the
Oh,
blue one.
oh, I haven't seen the sequel actually.
No, me neither. Because
Oh, okay.
a lot of the, the first movie, there was a lot of color coding. Like obviously, this
Mm-hmm.
tribe is modeled after this African tribe,
Indigenous. Mm.
but in the new movies, there was a lot of white actors playing these roles.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why that's I'm like,
Not surprised. I think my issue with Avatar I saw someone else make a post that explained it really well. Outside of the fact the first one isn't as good as it is acclaimed to be, and it's just long on top of not being that good. James Cameron likes to take a lot of other culture to put in his stuff to use, but then not really give credit to the culture that he's using.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
He might backpedal and kind of say a little something when someone points it out, but
mm-hmm.
and I used to be a big fan of him when I
And
was a
it's
kid. Like,
the white savior, mentality too.
yep,
You know, it's just old. Like we're just tired of it. We're tired of those stories.
yep.
And so I
Now,
think that platforms like yours that highlight stories that are trying to tell different stories is so important. Like we're out here.
we are.
We're out here. We're ready. It's just a matter of, people who are behind these projects, who give the green light to these projects. It's a matter of just funding. Like if you give me the money to produce Luna, I will.
Mm-hmm.
you know, but the money and these corporations, they go to the same old stories.
Yeah, and that's
Same.
why I think it's very important to support indie, and I don't just mean indie comics. I mean indie studios, indie films, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's so important because that's where you're going to find a lot more of that. May not always have the same big budget, but they're going to give you more passion.
Mm-hmm.
I wholeheartedly believe that.
Yeah, less censorship. Yeah.
Mhm. And speaking of that, our next question
Mm-hmm.
is, can you share a moment where you felt your art, your story, had a tangible impact on the community?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I have a few examples. Your baby. You sent me the video of
Mhm.
no, you told me that your daughter loves Luna. That's what you
Yes.
said. And so I sent her one of Luna's trading cards so she can have it, have her own little trading card. And she showed and she was like, this is mine, this is mine.
Hmm. And
And
it's sitting up in her room on the highest part of her dresser so that her youngest sister cannot reach it.
but that just shows that we need stories with Black females. We need stories. Our little Black girls need to see themselves flying in the sky. They need to see
Mhm.
themselves winning. They need to see themselves fighting this whatever it may be. They need to see that.
Right.
I remember some years back when I was doing when I before the comic book, I had the comic strip of Luna on Instagram. And Luna's hair at the time was very it was like 4C, but it was blonde and she kept it up in a bun. And I remember specifically, I wrote an article about this, is that before Luna, one of the readers DM'd me, and she was like, before Luna, I didn't like my hair, But now that I see Luna every single week on my timeline, I'm beginning to fall in love with my hair again, or fall in love with my hair. So, Luna in the comics, in the issue 1, you actually see this very clearly. She has different textures throughout the comic book.
Mhm.
And then issue 2, she has a different textures. And
Yes,
that was, and at first I really didn't think about the texture, but in certain scenes, I want to, there's certain scenes that Luna's hair is a certain way. There's certain scenes that Luna's hair is another way. But I just wanted to show the versatility of a Black woman's hair. You know what I mean? And then in future issues, Luna's going to have her hair straightened. And then Luna's going to
that's
have
gonna
her
be
hair
so
straight.
long.
Yeah, then Luna's going to have her hair in braids. I think for
Mhm.
issue 3, the cover, I'm going to have her hair straight. Because Luna, the cover and the standard cover is always going to be Luna by herself. And I think I might have her hair straight, or I might have it in braids, but it's going to be different. But I want our little girls, Black, brown, beige little
Mhm.
girls, to see how beautiful they are through Luna. So, but those are some moments. Those are some special moments that I've had, since Luna has come into the world.
That's good. I always love your emphasis on hair. I think especially because for me, when we create our characters, that's a big thing for me. I put a lot, like we both work together, but I'm just always like, what can I do now? So
Mm-hmm.
like the gray, her whole thing, which is another thing you also mentioned about our girls seeing themselves loved and this and that. I wanted our girls to see themselves as scientists and stuff like that, but still know that they can still be a Black woman with natural hair. And so now we if most people who know the gray know that she's got those two big puffs. So my initial idea, because of her line of work with physics, was for her to actually have 9 puffs around her head to represent the 9 planets, or 8, depending on whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, she's the sun, her afro puffs are the planets. Now, I understand that art, that's probably a lot to draw, but I would just love one picture where she has that.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
And
that could
then,
be a variant cover. It's just
yeah,
of her head and just of her hair.
right. And then, like, even Blue Morpho, like, her braids are very intentional. And even though in her design she has braids, in most of the story she'll have braids like Brandy, like how Brandy used to always wear braids back in the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
like that. We have still put a lot of thought into what her hair looks like when she's not wearing braids. And there
Mm-hmm.
will come a time in her story when you'll see her hair out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like the amount of time that is put into the hair of Black women characters just feels very important to me specifically, I know. And so because of that, I love the emphasis you always think about the hair,
Mm-hmm.
as someone who grew up with, if there was one thing you weren't going to try to call me white for, it was my hair.
It's our identity. It's our culture. It's our heritage.
Mhm.
Um, and so, we did a whole panel on this last summer.
Mhm.
Our hair means so much to us. So during
Mhm.
slavery, even into the 1900s, we still, we were the inability to take care of our hair the way we, were meant to take care of it was very traumatic for us. And
Right. And
within
both.
the past 70s, we saw a revolution, right, with afros.
Mhm.
But then, like, come the 80s and 90s, it kind of like, our we still had issues with our hair,
Mhm.
because growing up, we had issues with our hair. But now you can wear your hair anyway, and no one's not going to say a darn thing, a darn thing about it. You know what I mean? Um, you can wear your hair anywhere, any way you want to. I wear my hair a certain way, because I want to always, like, I feel like braids, or wherever have you. I usually wear my hair in braids.
Yeah.
Is a reflection of how I feel. I want to give an ode to my ancestry, but they're easy. I don't have to do
Mhm.
anything. And my natural hair has been able to actually grow very long because of my braids. You
Mhm.
know, um, and so, what do you think about? Let me just ask you this though. What do you think about Beyonce's new line?
I think I only really saw the one ad once. I think I personally was. I'm with the crowd of people of know your audience. I feel like she has a very particular audience she's going for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I am in that audience because unfortunately I need an affordable hair care, especially in the place where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Affordability is a huge thing for me. Um, money can be hard to come by sometimes. Honestly, like not
Right.
even gonna lie, money is hard, and I have 5 heads in this house, really thick, beautiful
Mm-hmm.
hair, and so I need to be able to buy no more than 2 different sets because, of course, with all of our hair being different, certain people's hair takes to certain products differently. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, I can put coconut oil in my hair. I can put coconut oil in my oldest daughter's hair. I cannot put coconut oil in my son or my youngest hair.
Mm-hmm.
It dries their hair out.
Wow.
So
Mm-hmm.
I have to, for them, use like, um, what was I using? Tea tree oil.
Mm-hmm.
Tea tree oil specifically is really good for their hair.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, like, I would buy like the little $3 thing of tea tree oil and try to use that for as long as I could. But then I have the big thing of coconut oil for the rest of us. And then I have like the specific shampoo for their hair, and then a different shampoo that the other 3 of us can use. And so I already have to buy different products. So I need to be able to afford them.
Yeah. I wanted to support her line, because I
Mhm.
always try everything one time. Like, if it works, it
Yeah.
works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I bought Donna's recipe. Tabitha
Mhm.
Brown's line. And
Oh.
it just didn't work for my hair. Like,
Mhm.
my texture, it just didn't do well for my hair. It didn't moisturize my hair the way I thought it would. So I'm not gonna buy it again. It
Yeah.
smelled great, but it's just not for my hair. So I was like, well, let me try, Beyonce's line, maybe get a shampoo and conditioner to see how it works. I'm with you. I can't afford that. Like, I can't afford a $40 bottle of shampoo.
No.
So,
And then my hair, as thick as it is, I use a lot of shampoo.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
like that'll be
And
gone.
conditioner, I'm sure, so
Hmm.
you want to support, you do want to support our Black artists.
Hmm.
You want to support our Black, businesses, but sometimes you just can't. You
Yeah.
just can't because you just don't have the means,
Yeah.
and
And if
um
I'm being completely honest, I would probably spend that $40 if I knew of a smaller Black owned brand that was trying to do something like this. Before
mm,
I would honestly spend it on Beyonce
mhm, mhm.
because I
Yeah,
want to see smaller brands grow. That's why we have such a large and that's not to say we don't have a lot of mainstream comic books because we have a collection that we've spent years collecting. But that's why, especially over the last couple years, we have amassed this large collection of indie comics.
mhm.
Like it's getting close to the point where it's about to be on par with our mainstream comic collection, and that's saying a lot. I mean, and I know there's some Kickstarters we wanted to support, and we just couldn't. There's so many Kickstarters even going on now that's like, oh, I want that, but we just can't.
Yeah. I know
And I mean,
some
and
backers
that's
have,
going on saying where we've supported Kickstarters when we have been like, I don't know how we're gonna pay for this Kickstarter when it's over, but we're gonna support it for right now and figure it out when it's done. Like,
yeah.
and we're able to scrape up like just because it's like I'm more willing to scrape up my last dollar to try to support you than I am to go out and spend money on Marvel and DC, and they're going to be cheaper because especially now because I know the work that goes into it. We know the behind the scenes and the money that goes into it.
And I think, and that's the beautiful thing about the indie space is that indie creators, we do, for the most part, although there are
Mhm.
some, creators that, have had fallen outs and all this other stuff. But for the most part, in the indie space, we do support each other.
Right.
Um, and that's a beautiful thing about, especially Black women. Like when I find
Mhm.
another Black creator, we're like, oh my gosh, we support each other because we know
Right.
how hard it is
Mhm.
to, highlight our work in comparison to, the dozens of other comic books that are out right now, so
Right.
um yeah, I think, but we definitely do support each other. And I wanted to mention something else. I know I talked about how Luna, she, I want people to know that Black women are loved and Black women are cherished, right? But I also
Mhm.
wanted to address the fact that about mental health. Luna also sheds light on mental health. Not only Luna's character, but there are some other characters that will I will develop that also are going through grief and mental health issues. And I pulled a statistic. First and foremost, Luna, in addition to some of the other things we discussed, Luna is carrying the weight of her world on her shoulders. Okay.
Right.
So women, specifically Black women, we're often asked to do that without complaining about it. We should not be complaining about that. And
Mhm.
I pulled another statistic from Johns Hopkins. Dr. Erica Richards states that women are twice as likely to experience an episode of depression compared to men.
Mhm.
African American women, compared to Caucasian women, are only half as likely to seek help.
Mhm.
So, Luna, I wanted to show what happens when a woman decides to seek help, seek answers, and then allow people in her life that love her to help her work through and navigate those problems and those issues. So, like I said, Luna isn't necessarily a book about police brutality or racism, but it's more about protecting your peace and your mental health and just relaxing in your love and allowing other people to love you. So those are the huge issues that Luna will hopefully convey, as I continue to tell this story.
Yeah. And I love that. We're gonna skip ahead to the last two questions because I know we've both had long days, and I don't
Yes.
want to keep you here for too long. I think I heard the food too. So, but I really feel like I want you to answer these last two questions,
Mhm.
and so did you do the right one? There you go. The first one is: what advice would you give to other Black women creatives who want to use their art, their stories for activism or social change?
Well, number one, go for it. If there's an issue that you feel really passionate about, go for it. Tell your story through, whether it be through music, whether it be through a poem, whether it be through a comic book. Just tell your story. But you also kind of have to be prepared for what's going to come afterwards. There's going to be a lot of people that receive it very well.
Mhm.
It will resonate with some people. It may inspire other people. But you will have those few people that will come at you like, why, how dare you, do this or do that. And you see this really with some of the people on social media. You have comedians, you have singers who might decide to comment on a particular issue. And there's always some idiot in the comments that says, stick to comedy or stick to singing,
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
like they did, with,
Just
Beyonce, stick
dribble
to
and
singing.
shoot.
Yeah, dribble and
Mhm.
shoot. So, but just go for it. Don't allow, any trolls to stop you from telling, conveying your message.
Besides, guys, social media is a cesspool. Something gonna happen if it like just stay off Twitter. Stay off Twitter. There you go.
Yeah, I left Twitter when that man took over Twitter. I left it because I was like, this man, the stuff he's tweeting, I'm like, I can't have this.
The only reason I am still on Twitter is because Twitter is a gold mine of voice acting auditions, and I'm still not even that active. So, but the last one I really want to hear from you is: can you share a Black woman artist, storyteller, activist who inspires you and why?
um, so when you say activist, you mean activist?
I mean, artist, activist, storyteller, honestly anyone. It's a Black woman who makes a difference and inspires you, really.
Well, I mean, the obvious answers are obviously Ava DuVernay. I
Mm,
think I'm saying her name. Yeah,
yeah,
Ava DuVernay.
yeah.
Um, I've only seen her stuff once because it's so intense that I can't see him again.
Mm,
But she's definitely someone that inspires me because she tells stories that are very hard to tell, that
mm,
probably no one else wanted to tell. And she's not all about, she knows she's not going to make a whole lot of money on these stories, but she chooses
right,
to tell them anyway. So she just from the, just from that piece of it, she inspires me. She's not afraid to try new things.
right.
Um, Comic book wise, obviously Midnight Comics is you all are one of my favorite storytellers. And yeah, you all are not active. You are what you would consider activists. Like you're not on, social media saying Black Lives Matter all the time, but through your
Not
work.
anymore. I was heck.
Well, I mean, but you know what I mean. That is not the
I know.
message every day.
No.
Your activism is more, we're Black, we're this couple who loves comics, who love manga, and guess what? We're going to build an empire. I don't care who has just whoever says what they want to say, they say it. We going to do what we want to do. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, you're
Tell you, like
welcome.
I told Kira when we talked, this is we definitely look like that a lot more up front than we feel like that in the background. But we are definitely working on trying to really believe that every day. So
Well,
we always appreciate y'all, all of y'all.
yeah. I mean, imposter syndrome is real. That all something all of us, struggle with. I struggled with it today. When I was on those panels, I'm like, what am I
Mm.
doing here?
You know, the funny thing is, I think I saw your face, and I was like, Carla's having a moment again. She's having a moment again, girl. You got this.
Hmm.
Your story is amazing. You deserve to be here.
Yeah, yeah. I
Honestly,
was
I felt like you deserve to be there more than some of the other people on the panel. Honestly, I, just being honest.
you know, the Jay Z. Some people don't need to be in that category. Um, but yeah, I have moments like that too, and just gotta let yourself go through it and address it, and you move past it.
Yeah.
But I would be lying if I didn't say it. If I said I didn't feel that way sometimes,
Mm.
especially when people start going off on tangents, like on that panel today, I was like, okay. And when people go off on tangents because they're so into their activism,
Mm.
it kind of sometimes turns people off. So you got to be real careful
Yeah.
about how you present your message. If you're trying to convey a certain message, you have to make sure that you frame it in a way that's not going to turn people off.
You're right. And
Um,
also think about it. Like, is this actually how this happened, or did I really internalize something that wasn't really as bad as I'm making it sound? Like, did this person really do this to me, or was I just being kind of like what I said with T'Challa earlier? Was I just really holding this really close, and I didn't need to be doing that. Like, you know.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has their own experiences. Everybody's going to perceive it differently.
Yeah.
But I think that's a real important message is, um, these, when we go back to who inspires me too, and I keep saying her name, but Beyonce does, not because she's Beyonce, but because how
Right.
she's chosen to package her
Mm-hmm.
message.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my favorite songs on her last album, Renaissance, was Church Girl.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't about going a church girl. It was about a woman who has embraced her sexuality and her freedom.
Mm-hmm.
That's the message of the story, but she chose to package it in a certain way.
Right.
And some people are turned off by that. Some people, feel it's blasphemy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why she's such a controversial figure. But it's her music. She has a whole tribe and hive behind her.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it resonates with some people. So, but yeah, and and the last person I would say really inspires me is the late Dr. Maya Angelou. And I say that because I grew up on
Yes.
her poetry. I grew up on her
Same.
and
I have
so
her books.
personally, and of course I'm not reading poetry right now, so but I haven't come across anyone that hits me the way that her poetry hits me. Um, and if you have suggestions, I'm more than likely. But for my
I'll
son,
send you a page.
okay,
They don't
uh,
have, like, a lot of them don't necessarily have as many poems that hit the way hers hit, but I still listen more to a lot of spoken word and slam poetry because I used to be in that space. And I definitely have listened to some poets who they have poems that hit just as hard.
yeah, oh, definitely send those to me. Because we just finished up in homeschool, we just finished up the poetry unit. But one of the poems that my son and I discussed was "I Rise" by Dr. Maya Angelou. So it was just the structure and the rhyming and the mechanics of it all, but the deeper message, it was just those poems. But
I will say, as far as Beyonce, I haven't heard Church Girl, but one of Beyonce's favorite songs for me in the last like decade was Pretty Hurts. That was a beautiful song about the expectations of being pretty in a world that usually only puts your worth in your looks. And
Mhm,
it's such a beautiful song.
mhm,
And I'm not a huge Beyonce fan. I'm really not.
mhm,
The last album I owned was Sasha Fierce. Um, and I don't think I've listened to an album in full since then.
mhm,
But my thing with Beyonce is that I always respect the hell out of her.
mhm.
She is a very accomplished woman, and like that, the the empire that they have built deserves respect.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Like that's
Mhm.
something to see.
Like her or not, you can't deny that they have worked hard and for
Right.
what they have, and
Hmm.
yeah. Mhm.
And that she is talented.
Yeah, I think so.
You don't
I,
have to
th-
like somebody to
I
know
think
that they're
so.
talented.
I
Nothing
mean,
weird out here.
I don't know why people who aren't singers, like I'm not a singer, but I can tell she can do things. I can hear that she's doing things with her voice that I don't hear nobody else doing.
Hmm.
And so singers call her, like when I ask another singer, what do you think of Beyonce? They say I don't like the way she sings, but she's a vocalist. Like she can take her voice
Oh, she is a vocalist
places
for sure.
that nobody else can take it to. And Whitney was a vocalist, but
Whitney
Whitney,
was an astounding vocalist.
yeah, she was she
One of the best of all time.
I think she was the best of all time. I personally think so. Besides, of course, opera singers are
Yeah.
really
I think that's
popular.
the only reason I said one of, because Mariah Carey used to, I don't know what, well, I don't know what happened. She used to definitely be up there because, I mean, she was the daughter of an opera singer. So
Mm-hmm.
like it was in her DNA.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. opera
But
singers.
those
Yeah,
two.
yeah. So,
But I loved Whitney more so.
yeah, Whitney just had this stage presence. Like she was like a, you felt like she was at the family reunion. You know,
But
when you
still
watch.
looked like a goddess every
Very
time.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I miss Whitney. Yeah, I miss her.
yeah, I have Whitney listening parties, like, party of one, Whitney listening parties. And my youngest, my baby, she loves when I sing her Whitney.
Oh,
I'm singing in a lower key because I can't hit high notes, but okay. But thank you. I'm so glad you were here. And
thank you.
I'm so glad you were here after doing the panel, because it also gave us some stuff to look back on, to reflect on what you said earlier and just really think about it too. But just, I'm gonna move on, guys, to our women's history fact of the day, because remember that by the time you see this, it's Women's History Month. And the women's history fact of the day is that Mary Eliza Mahoney is recognized as the first Black nurse in the United States. And Lloyd, I don't know if you picked that one because we have a nurse on, but in case you didn't, good job.
I
Because it
know.
was so perfect, because we have an awesome nurse on with us right now.
And
An
just
awesome Black nurse.
yeah, just thank you. And just some little history on Mahoney. So, back they didn't have nursing school, what we would consider nursing school today. It was more of like kind of like a on the job training that they did. And it was very, very intense. I think they had to train, like, it was a program. And Mahoney started off with like 20 something people in the program. She was the only Black nurse, a Black student, obviously. But the hours were so intense. I think, like 10-hour shifts, like 7 days a week. I mean, it was really, really intense. And I'm exaggerating, but it was just an intense clinical rotation.
I feel like you're not
And
exaggerating, especially given the time, honestly.
yeah, yeah. It was just insane. And I think she was one of five. Like everyone had dropped out. I think it was less than, I think it was, I want to say like between 5 to 10 only graduating. She was the one of them. So it was just a really, the way that the stuff that they put them through, especially, I'm sure they put her through much more.
Right.
But she went from being, I think, an aide to a nurse, a professionally trained nurse. And so I just remember reading that fact in nursing school, and I was like, oh my gosh, and we're up here complaining about, for 6-hour clinical
Well,
rotations,
I mean,
So,
to be fair, I've always had the highest and utmost respect for nurses, because I don't know, because I think you do 12-hour days, right?
mhm,
Yeah,
12
those
hour night
12-hour
shift.
days, I couldn't. And my first off, my grandmother was a nurse, so of course that gives me a lot of respect for nurses. And then my first child, not my oldest daughter, my very first child, she's not with us, spent 6 weeks in the NICU,
Mm,
and those nurses were a godsend.
mm,
They were some of the most amazing women in the world.
mhm.
So I have so much respect for nurses, especially nurses who are really doing their duty and working hard. Y'all don't get paid enough. Y'all don't get breaks enough.
We
And
do
I
not.
mean, but thank you too. See, you see what happens when you put the good fact with the good guest that can relate to the fact. She just gave you a more history lesson than y'all would have got if we had someone else on. So you're welcome. From Karla, you're welcome for that. And of course, I want to remind everyone that, of course, the creative challenge is still on. You still have time. We have 2 more episodes before the last episode. And so get the creative thing done. All right. Make yourself a piece of art, poetry, short story, mini comic, photography that you think inspires social change. And with that being said, this has been Melanin Minds, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, Tosh. Bye.